I'm Emily Simone.
And I'm Don Goldstein, and we're career advisors at the Graduate Center.
This video is on writing your cover letter.
People often struggle with the cover letter because they feel like they can't fit in all the points they want to make. And this goes back to figuring out what is it the employer wants and what is it that you have. Now, this could be a long list, and you're still not going to be able to include all those points in your cover letter because you're going to want to keep your cover letter to 1 page maximum for jobs that are outside of academia. Essentially, you're going to need to prioritize this list. So what are 3 or 4 skills, tasks, or experiences that you think are most important to the employer? And if it's difficult to cull this list and prioritize, you might think about, all right, what order did the employer put their preferred qualifications? What points are falling first and second and third and fourth? That may give you a little bit of a clue as to what's most important, but also what has been repeated in both the job description as well as the preferred qualifications. And this also may give you some clues as to what is most important to that employer. So choose your 3 or 4 main skills, tasks, or experiences that you want to highlight in your cover letter. And then find a way to summarize these in the first paragraph, almost as an introduction sentence to the rest of the cover letter. And then in the second paragraph is where you're going to expand on these 3 or 4 main skills, tasks, or experiences. So you might say something, for example, let's say that writing skills in this case are important to the employer, and that's very clear throughout the points that are made in both the job description as well as the preferred qualifications. You might say, I strengthen my writing skills through the PhD program in sociology as I wrote research papers, publications, and presentations. I also honed my writing skills when I interned for Metis Associates and wrote various research reports. So you kind of detail where you picked up these skills, where you exercise them, where you enhance them.
Let's take a look at a sample cover letter and unpack how this letter does and doesn't achieve the goals that Emily discussed. Remember Maria Hoffman? If you watched the video on how to write your resume, you remember that Maria was interested in a job as a research and evaluations associate at iMentor. iMentor is a nonprofit organization that empowers students in low-income communities to succeed in their high school and college studies. The job of Research and Evaluations Associate involves assessing iMentor program outcomes and generating insights to align iMentor's work with their organizational goals. In the first paragraph, Maria lays out a high-level summary of the skills and qualifications that she'll unpack in her letter. She also says how she found the job. Always a nice thing to add if possible. In the next paragraph, she talks about her motivations, a driving desire to help people achieve their goals. Such information is helpful, but might be even better if it were moved up to the first paragraph. In the third paragraph, she unpacks her skills by relating them to her work experience and accomplishments. She does a nice job of contextualizing the breadth and the scope of these projects across different sectors. As she mentions how this work had outcomes that made an impact on high-level strategic and organizational goals, exactly the kind of thing that iMentor is asking for. Next, she discusses some of her soft skills and discusses how these allow her to succeed as part of a team. Leadership, communication skills, flexibility, or adaptability are all things that are nice and help employers decide how she'll fit inside the organization. At the end, she comes back to her driving passions and explains why she's uniquely suited to help iMentor achieve its goals by speaking again to the overlap between her passions and the job requirements mentioned in the job ad.
So I think the opening of the cover letter is extremely important. You want to catch the reader's attention. A good journalism student would know that the lead of the article is very important so that the reader will continue to read the article. In this particular cover letter, I think that second paragraph where the student speaks about being 7 years old and helping her brother make more money at the lemonade stand would definitely capture the attention of the reader and get the reader to continue on with the cover letter. I would say that for an organization that is not staid and conservative, like a bank or a finance organization. But I think in this particular case, you can show a little bit more creativity in the cover letter.
Another aspect of this cover letter we'd like to talk about is mentioning something maybe in the first or second paragraph, so pretty early on, about the organization to which you're applying and why you are especially interested in that organization. And we could see that later on in the cover letter, pretty much the very last paragraph, where this position speaks to me because so on and so forth, which is great. It's great to talk about, but this person may also want to have an abbreviated, similar sentiments but different, said in a different way, but expressing some of that enthusiasm for the organization right up front. And Don was talking about capturing the reader's attention. You also want to up front be able to communicate that excitement for not only the position but also that particular organization.
I wanted to mention this very short paragraph where the candidate talks about her soft skills. In the cover letter, the soft skills are only listed, so this really doesn't have much weight to it. What would give it more weight would be if the candidate was able to give examples of some of these soft skills. And again, maybe not every one of them, but going back to the job description to see what's most important. And then, unlike the resume where it's written in these very short, pithy statements, the cover letter gives you a chance to expand and explain and tell a better story.
And one thing we might take note of is the actual address at the beginning, or whom we're addressing this letter to. So you may notice it says to whom it may concern. These days it's encouraged to either write perhaps dear hiring manager or dear recruiter, if you know exactly who or what entity you're applying to. But even more so, if you happen to have a name of somebody that you're addressing this to, that's even better. I know that's not always possible to get the exact name of the hiring manager or somebody. But if you happen to have been introduced to this job that you're applying to through a connection, you can find out perhaps through your connection who you should address the letter to. And in that case, you may also want to mention that you found this position through that connection. So this person said they found this through her research on Indeed.com. So instead of that, you would be placing that you learned about the position through John Smith at your organization. And of course, you would want to get permission from John Smith that it's okay to mention his name.
Abby had more questions about writing a cover letter, so she took an appointment with our office.
So I already have a cover letter that I really like and I used to apply to a teaching position. I'm wondering if I could use that same cover letter to apply to other jobs that I'm thinking about.
What you're saying is that you have a template cover letter that you want to use to apply for all the jobs. And I'm assuming that this template cover letter is just kind of a general introduction of who you are. That's a common mistake in writing cover letters. So instead of it doing that way, what's really important is to relate to the job description. So it's important to understand that the cover letter is also used as a writing sample by the organization that you're applying to. They want to make sure that the candidate can write well enough in English. So it's very important that the cover letter be well written and free of any spelling or grammatical mistakes. And it's really a good idea to have a career counselor or at least someone else proofread your cover letter before you send it out.
And also remember that the cover letter, even though you are expanding on some things in your resume, you're not going to be able to talk about everything on your resume. So you're really going to have to zero in on what you think is most important and relevant and interesting to that employer and that position.
Because the cover letter should always be 1 page or less.